Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing well. Now, this video is going to be focused on the point about a 5-star version of Wolverine. Because unfortunately, if you watched the Marvel Contest of Champions news I recently posted, which in the Marvel Contest of Champions news addressed this, which Caban might basically says, having tried out a 5-star Scarlet Witch at Signature 200, she is more powerful than any of those champions. And no content stands in her way. There may be a day where we see her as a 5-star version in game, but she's not coming anytime soon. Now, I can imagine there's a lot more complexity to that statement, and as well, considering the fact that we've got WandaVision coming out soon, there's going to be a way to capitalize on the situation for the point of putting in a new character, which may or may not have these designs here from what is tipped to be the costume for Doctor Strange on the left and WandaVision to the right, which obviously she'll be appearing in both types of one, the movie, and the other being the TV series. And also do bear in mind that there is an alternate version somewhere in the game files that was created. It is kind of weird to have this, but the same thing can be said for Doctor Strange, who's got an alternate version, which I would have liked to have seen, but there may be something of a new build possibly in the next couple of years with the release of the sequel to Doctor Strange. But anyway, I digress. Scarlet Witch is a fantastic champion, but she's only a fantastic champion of clearing a lot of content, possibly up to a certain point of halfway through Act 5, but when it comes to any further progression, she kind of stops, and stops based on the rarity, the damage output, and as well just general usage. I've used the champion to clear a lot of things like Realm of Legends, not to mention the fact that a lot of monthly quests do use her, but as content increases in difficulty, the usage and need for her does go down. So I guess it does go back to that point that Mike says, the reasoning behind the fact that we haven't seen any greater rarity of this champion is because she literally demolished through a lot of content. Although that statement can be said for a lot of key champions or god tiers that other players do use as well. The other champion's an example I think that I possess, but there are so many other examples in game. I mean, in my roster at the moment, Blade, Signature 200, very powerful, great regen. Yeah, you've also got Stark Enhanced Spidey. If you're able to build up the poise charges quickly enough, you're able to put out amazing crit damage, especially if you keep him over a certain amount of health. Domino with heavy attacks, not to mention amazing SP2s. Even as a 6-star, she's damage outputting a huge amount, especially if some of these characters had suicide masteries running with them. Got Namor there, you know, I mean, that is a key example of huge and amazing damage output, especially as a 6-star, allowing that as a 6-star, and even looking at the fact of like, right, well, we're comparing a 5-star, not even a 5-star, not even a 6-star in shape and form of Scarlet Witch, so it is incredible. Corvus Glaive building up and doing multiple persistent charges, not to mention and keeping the scheme of persistent charges. You've got Aegon. Aegon is like an amazing champion, keeping those combos strong, and as well, like hitting it over a certain amount, it's going to mean that your damage output is going to be huge going up against certain champions, and like especially in Labyrinth of Legends. If I get this guy awakened, I'm going to be taking him up to rank 2, and I'm going to be able to steamroll through a lot of it, especially because a lot of people post that information. So with all that damage output aside and all the capabilities, the regen, the furies, the nullifying and things like that, should it really be a problem to implement it as a 5-star? I guess the stumbling block for Kabam is scaling the buffs against certain things. If you've got the regen buff, the extent of how much the champion will regen in any given time. So if she's regenning about 1,000 a second and this goes on for 10 seconds, then that could be a little bit of a problem. And especially if she gets 2 of those, maybe 3 of those, that's 30k of regen back. So from Caban's perspective, they would need to scale it against the content or scale it against what is acceptable. However, though, with a lot of content that's put in game and bosses, a lot of them have heal block. So maybe that could be thought about when putting in a 5-star version. And especially maybe with the Fury. When she gets a Fury buff, then the fact is, well, couldn't that be scaled? Like, instead of it being, okay, so she gets 10% based on her base attack per Fury buff. So that's going to be, you get 2, that's 20% based on attack bonus, whatever and however it's going to be worked out. The fact is that could be scaled back. Doesn't have to be 10%, could be 0.5. You know, it's just scaling against the applicable content and not making her quite so powerful, but powerful enough that we go, right, well, the 5-star version is good. It's slightly better than the 4-star version, but it's able to damage output in a fair light, especially comparing it with other champions, like the ones we've just discussed. Even though I've slightly derailed my argument point, something still remains the same, and that is the scaling. And when you look at a character that, again, is in that mix, shape and form of a 5-star Wolverine, is that something that would be logical to have? Or could we say that is possible? But at the same time, would that champion need scaling? And Wolverine does strike me as a bit of an oddity, especially not being a 5-star or 6-star version. We just had Mr. Sinister put in this year, and that character has some amazing and weird regeneration interaction. Now, even though I don't have anything higher than a 2-star, which is sad for the purpose of this video, just to showcase the extent of just regeneration back to the character, because it is annoying, but the same principle could be said for Wolverine at a 5-star. Why is there a 6-star version of this character in game, but the same token we can't have anything that highly regenerates that is at a 5-star with a Wolverine at 200 signature? Now, Omega A level 5 does ask the question of this, but unfortunately it doesn't look like it's been answered in this post. By the way, link in the description if you do want to check this out. Now, the forum post goes on further to discuss the idea of Scarlet Witch, and it's kind of like left Wolverine in the background. But look, let's try and compare some stats against a Wolverine, especially like looking here. Right, so we've got here level 27, rank 4. Now, obviously, health-wise, it's a little bit more, and obviously the base attack's a little bit more. Now, I don't know if this is scaled up based on what is meant to be a defender. Obviously, this is master. If we went into uncollected, I think it's going to be 6-star version that we'd go up against. So this is good of comparison. First and foremost, let's have a look at cellular regeneration, which has got up of 2,635.92 based on the power levels. Obviously, the more signature levels you put in, the more it's going to do. With the 4-star version, on the other hand, doing 3,092.54 based on a full 200 sigs. Over the top of the video at the moment, I'm showcasing the extent of trying to build power on the enemy, staying in a block stats because I want him to keep that power to try and get those regenerations, and as well get them at the most potency as possible. Now, the more that I watch this, the more that I think about Deadpool, and probably the reason that Kabam haven't done a 5-star version. However, though, there is Goldpool, which in some ways is a sort of comparison to this. And it does make me think that, right, well, if you can do a 5-star Goldpool, then why can't you do a 5-star Wolverine? Yes, they're very different, but the fact is the point still remains the same about the aggressive regeneration, which I can imagine is Kabam's problem. Anything else like the extent of bleeds is not going to be an issue. And look, I took damage. Yes. The bleeds were good. Yes. Are they in comparison to the likes of Blade or any other bleeding champion that's been implemented as a 5-star? No. So I still don't get why there isn't a 5-star version of Wolverine put into game. The thing I look at is Wolverine X23, and like, if this one is in the game, then why isn't the Wolverine? There must be more to this that meets the eye, and I just maybe find this quite strange. Or maybe there's something that Kabam have put together where, like, well, right, so you've got a version of Abomination and Black Widow recently have kind of gone into crystals within a year, but the other ones can't for whatever reason. Even Doctor Strange and Thor have come in as a 5-stars. Not groundbreaking, but at the same time, very strange that they're not getting the Wolverine 5-star in. It does feel to me that there's a lot of questions that still need answering as to why, and mainly with this one. I sort of get the reasoning behind Scarlet Witch not getting that nod to be a 5-star, but as I said, there's ideas of scaling which could be done in order to make sure that this character is done right for Kabam's purpose, and also to give the community the champion that they really want to get. And if Kabam's big worry is the fact that she's able to steamroll through content or completely blast through it with any kind of problem, then the content needs to be tweaked against that in the future. But with Labyrinth of Legends being all about capping the extent of damage that can be done in a special attack, that kind of satisfies that particular argument, especially if you're looking at the fact you have 5 stars and 6 stars that can do massive amounts of damage. And even looking at more difficult content, so you've got Act 5, and also you've got the variants, were very specific on certain champions being used. They would be by the nodes and global nodes restricted down in their performance, especially looking at Act 5. And yeah, maybe she would be able to do something for Act 6, but I can imagine as soon as she reaches further points in this particular completion or even exploration, that there would be stumbling blocks in place. Hill blocks here, buffs nullifying there, being punished for having buffs somewhere else. So I can imagine Kabam would come up with something creative in order to make sure that that particular character is limited down in the performance. I really hope that this isn't the end for these two characters. I know in the post Kabam did say that it could be a possibility, but it's nice to kind of think that they started this process of putting in those OG characters and then it stopped. And I think a lot of us were just like, well, why? We had Doctor Strange and we had Thor OG put in fairly recently. Are we going to have any more of these? And why have we stopped all of a sudden? It is a good revenue for Kabam, and at the same time it would be good for the player base to see these characters in some sort of format. So I find it very odd, I understand, but look, you can scale these things to be good for you, but also good for us as the player base. In any case, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.